Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of the Gooner Talk. I was going to say, I hope you're doing well, but I know you're not. And so, I'm not going to wish, and I hope that you are. I hope you're well, obviously, but I know that you're not. Really disappointing evening yesterday. Really horrible. Worst case scenario. Could not have gone worse. I mean, you think you could lose 3-0 and then you lose two centre-backs, possibly, for Newcastle. Oh, dearie me. It's just so frustrating. I'm going to get through a lot of your comments, obviously, but it's just so frustrating that we do this to ourselves. I can't wait for Arsenal to just have this entire new team that just moves on from, the players that have just costed us time after time, just of the old gen. What can you do? We've got so many blooming players out, and the players that have come in are just not good enough in these huge games. Sure, you can get by in some games, and you can do as much as you can in as many games as possible, but you can't go through all of them and expect that it's not going to go well. And Cedric isn't good enough. Holding at right centre back has been very good defensively this season, but you can't rely on Rob Holding for a whole season if you want to get into the Champions League. It's always going to be costly somewhere, and yesterday, unfortunately, that happened. That said, I'm the most one of the most optimistic people probably on the platform regarding Arsenal, and my positives are that I can compartmentalize a couple of errors, and I can go into this Newcastle game knowing, with 11 men, with hopefully, White back, that we will be a lot better, and that we've got a great chance of winning these last two games and still qualifying for the Champions League, because it's still in our hands. It's still in our hands, which is the most important thing. And that's why we've worked to get that buffer. That's why we've worked to give ourselves a 4-point gap, so that if we lost this game, which was, something we've done several times, having not won there since 2014, that we've still got this situation where we can win it. Let's jump into the chat. Let's jump into the chat and say good morning. Good morning to everybody. I can tell people are hurting because it's just straight comments of anger, straight comments of frustration in the chat box this morning. Good morning to everybody joining us. Hope you're doing good and well. Good for Matt G. We move indeed, but we move after we've talked about this, because we need to talk about this. Now, it's not going to be a popular opinion, because I know that it's something that's divided a lot of people today and yesterday. And I know that a lot of you aren't going to agree with me, but I think it was a penalty. I think it was a penalty. I think that Cedric fouled him in the box, and I haven't got an issue with it being given. I know that people want to turn around and say it's really soft, but I think it's a penalty. I also think that Holding should have been given a straight red, rather than a second yellow, because it was the most stupid challenge. However, that doesn't mean that I don't think the refereeing across the entire game was not dreadful. How Son isn't punished for elbowing Holding in that moment, and it isn't even checked, I don't know. The amount of 50-50s that weren't given Arsenal's way. I think there was even a moment right at the end of the game where the flag went up for a throw-in to Spurs, when it was ever so clearly a throw-in to Arsenal, and actually we had to go and tell the official that he got it wrong, and they changed the decision. It was awful. It was so awful, the officiating across the game in general. But the two big calls that I know people are talking about the most, I personally think they got right. And it's very difficult to sometimes hold your hands up and be like, yeah, you got it right. And I mean, I'll show you why. I'm never one not to back up my points without argument. I'll show you why I believe it's a penalty, because you can see in these moments here, Cedric's not looking at the ball. The ball comes across. He's not looking to play the ball here. He's got nothing. He's not trying to challenge for the header. He's not goal side, which is a mistake in itself. He should be goal side. And he gets in a really awkward situation, and he pushes, as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, he pushes Son in the back. He pushes Son in the back in the box with the ball coming in. Son is going for the ball, and he pushes him in the back here. It's a foul. it's just a foul. I can't get my head around. I know that we want to back our team, we want to defend. And I had people saying to me last night, I'm so sick of Arsenal fans not defending their team. Look, I'll defend my team all the live long day, but I can't defend what is a foul. I can't defend that. It's a clear and obvious push in Son's back while she's in the air challenging for the ball, and Cedric's not going for the ball. And that's the thing that people keep missing. So people go, it's contact, he's coming, they've clashed. But the difference is that one player is going for the ball and one player isn't going for the ball. And when you're in a scenario like that, you're going to see a foul given, especially when you can see the position of the referee, especially when Son goes down and the ball goes out of play with nothing. It's going to be a foul. And this idea of a soft penalty, I get the terminology, but something's either a penalty or it isn't. It's either a foul or it isn't. And Cedric pushes Son in the back. It's a foul. So therefore it's a penalty. And that I can't see the argument. Charlie, saying it's not a foul, you're offering me nothing in regards to an explanation as to why. We can all sit there and throw a comment into the chat and say, it's not this, it's not that. But I need some explanation. If we're going to disagree, fine. I don't mind people disagreeing with my point of view, but I need you to come with an explanation. I need you to come with an explanation as to tell me why one player who is not going for the ball and pushing a player in the back who is going for the ball in the box isn't a foul. I need someone to explain that to me. That's all I want. I'm all for changing my mind, as you very well know. But to turn around to me and say, it's not a foul and that's it, just to accept it. It's not a foul. Or we would never get that decision. That's not an explanation. Saying that Arsenal wouldn't get this decision at the other end of the pitch is not explaining to me why this isn't a foul. Stuart says, you're wrong, Tom. You see 100 of these every match and nothing's given. Again, that's not an explanation as to why this isn't a foul. I want someone to explain to me why one player not going for the ball, pushing a player that's going for the ball in the back, in the box, is not a foul. That's all I need someone to do for me. That's all I need someone to do to explain to me why it's not a penalty. That's all I want. Chronicle says, Tom, Son had momentum jumping forward and felt Cedric's arm on his back and made a meal of it. Son was jumping for the ball. So obviously he was going in that direction, sure. But then he feels the push from Cedric and goes down. And again, as you can see from the images, Cedric isn't going for he's not looking at it. He's not even looking at the ball. So, of course, the referee is going to go. He's looking at Son in this image here. You can see it more clearly in this image here. Not looking, the ball's up here. The ball's up here, and he's looking, if anything, towards Son here. You can see the angle of his head. And in this one again, he's not looking at the ball. And Son is very clearly trying to go for it. So it's a case of, sure, Son's jumping. Son's got momentum. But Cedric isn't going for the ball. He's the wrong side of him. He's got into an awful position in no man's land, and he's fouled him. Static says, Tom, you're technically correct, but it isn't given. Historically, it isn't given. Why against us? If I'm technically correct, how can we have an argument about it when it is given? This is, again, something I really struggle with. Socks Guy says, you could argue this level of contract was exaggerated. It's football. They exaggerate contact. That's what happens. You exaggerate contact to win fouls. That's the only way that referees give things in 2022 in modern era football. But it doesn't stop you from, the fact of the matter is that Cedric should be trying to get goal side. He's allowed Son to come across him. And it's not the only time this happens. Martinelli nearly cost us another goal with Emerson because he was ball watching as Emerson came in behind him and took the ball away. And Nketiah wasn't alert enough during the second goal, didn't get up with the team, was ball watching and allowed to play Kane onside. There was so much ball watching in this game. It was a frustration. I feel like we can go back and forth about the penalty all day long. But if people are watching on playback, leave your comments in the comment section. If someone can explain to me, as I've said a number of times now, how one player who is not looking to play the ball goes into the back of another player who is looking to play the ball, whether the contact's exaggerated or not, whether the player's jumping already or not, how it's not a foul. That's all I want to be explained. That's it. But I'm not going to sit here and debate with people that the refereeing performance across the entire game is poor. That for me is a crux of the reason why we lost the game in general. But the main reason why we lost the game was because of Cedric and Holding. Cedric and Holding cost us this game. And, maybe if Tomiyasu's there and White's there, maybe that doesn't happen. But it's all the benefit of hindsight. The facts is that Cedric and Holding, for me, are the reasons why we didn't win this game. And, the benefit, the positive I can take from that is that they're two players that shouldn't be starting for us really next season or in the near future. They're players that are backup. They're players that are squad depth. They're players that arguably, in regards to Cedric, in my view, we should be looking to upgrade upon really now. And I know I've gone back and forth on this, but it's performances like this that really do kind of enlighten you to it. Rob Holding, I'm still fine with in general, being a squad player. He's going to have games like this, but over the course of this season, he's been defensively pretty solid. But you should only be using him sparingly at Arsenal, and we should have players that are significantly better being used on the most part, not in these huge games. And we wouldn't be using him if we had the players fit. We know that. But those two players have cost us. Now, I need to understand from people's point of view the Arteta argument. Because this is where, again, I think I'm going to deviate with people, is that people want to see Tomiyasu played at right back and Cedric played at left back or Tavares played at left back. Now, the reason why this is very easy to say with the benefit of hindsight is because of what we've seen. But to be honest, it wasn't a tactical reason why those errors happened. Holding is better than that. We know he's been better than that from those mistakes. I don't know why he felt the need to be as aggressive, overly aggressive with Son from that early on, to get pulled out of position so easily. I don't really understand why he was pulled out and, he got inside his head so quickly. He's one of the more experienced players in the team. He shouldn't be doing that. He should be giving Cedric far more protection throughout the game, and he wasn't. He wasn't that security, that presence that Cedric needed. And that's why I was fine with Cedric starting at right back, because he had a more defensive-minded Rob Holding next to him in my mind. So I had no issue with the selection in that regard, because that was the best we could have gone for. If Ben White was fit, I would have loved Ben White to play at right back, Tomiyasu playing at left back. That's what I would have wanted us to go for in the game. But White wasn't fit. Tomiyasu, it's very easy to go, in the benefit of hindsight, let's play him at right back. We should have played him at right back all the live long day. We would have played him at right back. But then you would have put either a defensively compromised Nuno Tavares against Kulusevski, who's been in great form, or Cedric on his weaker side, again against Kulusevski. And I think the balance of the back four made sense to put Cedric at right back and Tomiyasu at left back. For the balance of the back four and to make sure you've got as strong a right back and as strong a left back as possible, it was the right decision to play in that system. If Ben White was fit, even better. But he wasn't. He wasn't fit enough. And then you see the other argument is, why didn't we bring Ben White on? He wasn't fit. The only scenario where Ben White would have been on in the game is if we were holding a lead in the last 10 or so minutes or the last 5 or so minutes, because that's all he could have done and all he could have been used for, was we could have brought Ben White on in the last 10 or 5 minutes of the game to help see out a result. That's the only scenario that he would have, that he would have been on the pitch. It's the only way that Ben White would have played. So when you see the criticism of Arteta being Holding was sent off, we should have brought White on. White wasn't fit to play 70 plus minutes. He wasn't fit to play that amount. And it's not about going, well, if he isn't fit for that, why is he on the bench? Because he's the only senior centre-back that we had available to be on the bench. And so therefore what you do is you bring him on the last 10 or 5 minutes of the game to help see out a winning scoreline. That's why he was there. I struggle to know why it's so hard for that to be understood. It's not about him, a mistake, not bringing him on. He wasn't fit. He was only going to be there to be brought in the last 5-10 minutes of the game. And, to blame or to point fingers at the coaching staff over not bringing on White earlier is just, it's a lack of understanding about how available White was and a lack of understanding as to why he was there in the first place. Let's get some more reaction. Let's get some more reaction from you guys in the chat box. Navarra says, Tommy left back was a horrible decision. Why not play your best defensive fullback versus the most informed winger in the league? Because, again, as I've mentioned, the balance of the back four have been wrong. Cedric at left back or Tavares at left back, from a defensive standpoint, it would have been a nightmare, in my view. And with the benefit of hindsight, it's really easy to say that Tavares should have been there or that Cedric should have been there and that Tomiyasu. But again, we didn't lose because Son was getting in behind us, or we didn't lose because Son was getting the better of Cedric in that moment. We lost because of a stupid mistake from Cedric and an even sillier mistake from Rob Holding. That's why we lost the game. At 1-0, when we gave the penalty away, we weren't out of the game. You know, we weren't out of the game at 1-0. But when the ball goes over the top and already Holding's been beat, you know, and he's already been too aggressive going into the right-hand side with Son and being beat there when he should have been a little bit more level-headed, calmer, used the space a lot better. You know, the reason why we lost is because of that. You know, at 1-0, we were still at 11-all in terms of the amount of people on the pitch. We didn't need to throw the game away, but we threw the game away. And that's the problem, is that we absolutely threw the game away. The reason why we lost this game is not because Tomiyasu wasn't playing right back. That's not the reason why we lost. And I can't, it's really easy in the benefit of hindsight. It's really easy after the game to look back at this and go, well, we should have put this player here and we should have put this player there. But we were in the game. You know, we were fighting hard. We were playing well. We were creating chances. You know, we were looking dangerous in the first 20 minutes with the way that we set up. So I can't legislate a viewpoint that doesn't make sense when we were competitive right up until there's two silly mistakes, one of which obviously sends us down to 10 men and gives us no chance of really getting out from those defensive positions. I just can't. I can't legislate for that. Daniel says, you just contradicted yourself. Holding got sent off because of Son running in behind. It was a ball over the top. Yeah. This is about running in behind on the left-hand side against Cedric. It wasn't because those balls were played and Cedric wasn't defending well against. It's not about contradicting myself there, mate. It's a long ball over the top. Very, very different scenario to what I was talking about. Yasir says, our pressing tactic went down the drain because we left Holding isolated with Son. Arteta should have reacted when he saw that mismatch. In my opinion, it was part of the reason that we lost. But again, we don't have the personnel. And taking off Tomiyasu on that side and putting Cedric over on the other side, you know, it would not have helped the situation for me. It's just my opinion. It would not have helped the situation. We lost this game because of individual errors, not because of tactical decision-making or team selection. Individual errors is what's cost us in this derby. And that gives me, you know, positive hope going into the game against Newcastle, because then it goes back to 11 against 11. You know, it goes back to a game where we'll start on the same playing field as Newcastle with, in my opinion, a better team against a team that have nothing to play for, which makes them dangerous. And I'm not going to take that for granted. It makes them dangerous. It makes them, they've got nothing to lose, so they can just go for it. And from my opinion on this, it's a really good scenario for us to go into that game. You know, they haven't got Shelvey, they haven't got Willock. Yes, they are going to have Bruno Guimaraes. Yes, they are probably going to have Trippier and Callum Wilson back for this game. But we should have enough to beat Newcastle. We should have absolutely have enough to go to that game and win. The back four is going to be another problem again. You know, if Gabriel's not fit, Rob Holding suspended, the back four might be Cedric, Tomiyasu, White, or the other way around, and Tavares. That might be our back four. And we're going to have to deal with that. You know, we're going to have to deal with that with the right tactics. We're going to have to deal with that with our wing backs, or rather our wingers being instructed to make sure they cover the fullback areas a lot better. But we have a good chance of going into this game and getting something from it. So I'm really hopeful going into this game with everything still in our hands that we can do it. What I can't get my head around is the meltdown that we saw. You know, I don't mind seeing a meltdown towards the officials, even if I disagree with the point of view about Cedric and the foul. If people want to melt down about the officiating, that's fine. But if people want to somehow go, this is the reason why, you know, we're bad. This is the reason why Arteta should get sacked. This is the reason we're not good enough. You know, we should have brought back William Saliba. Really? Are we really going to go for William Saliba here? So people really trying to justify that. He's had a season on loan at Marseille, and yet 3 games before the end of the season, we're going, I know what we should have done. William Saliba. And you know why that's so wrong? It's because people so quickly forget Pablo Mari was sent on loan in January. If you want to have a complaint about a defender and a transfer decision about a defender, then complain about Pablo Mari being sent on loan. You know, that's what you can complain about. Or Maitland-Niles, who can play left back or right back if you want him to. That's what you should be complaining about. But the cult following around Saliba and the idea that he's such an easy stick to bash the manager with means that people completely forget the other decisions that have happened later than that point and that we could have stopped. So a genuine criticism would be, you know, we probably should have kept Pablo Mari at the club, or we should have kept Maitland-Niles at the club for the last 6 months of the season, or we should have looked to bring a replacement in for 6 months. But no, because it's the easiest stick to bash the manager, we're going to go Saliba. That's the one. We're going to use that tonight. Let's open up my raffle of Arteta criticisms. Just going to spin the raffle around a bit. What am I going to put? Oh, Saliba. Saliba's the one today we're going to use. It's pathetic. It's ridiculous. It's just so ridiculous that the criticism that get thrown out. It's just like it is from a raffle that what these people use sometimes. Neil says, Tom, we lost because they have 2 world-class players. Name one world-class player that played for us yesterday, and I can't. Because we've got world-class potential. We've got players that could be world-class one day, but we've got a young squad. They've got Kane and Son, sure. But again, I don't think they're the 2 reasons why they won the game. The reasons why we lost the game were because of our own mistakes, our own errors. That's why, in my view, we lost the game. They won the game because they took advantage of those mistakes with their world-class players, sure. But the causation for the defeat was individual mistakes, without a shadow of a doubt. SJ Chan says the ref did what they did at Liverpool, foul players and Liverpool players sent off. Klopp was absolutely furious. Ian says the ref gave them every 50-50 until the last 10 minutes of the game. Holding got booked for making 3 fouls, but Kane finished the game with 4 fouls and nothing. There is no consistency with the officials. Willie says people make excuses for these frauds every game. They never talk about Gabriel getting fouled every game. Saliba in talks to leave. That stick won't be available for long. He's not in talks to leave at the moment. I know that Marseille want to keep him, but there's no talks right now. That's waiting until the end of the season before we go down that route. Robert says, Tom, it's a bloody shame we couldn't find 1 or 2 lines like they did in January. It stretched us and last. Look, if we don't get top 4, as I've said time after time, we will look back at January and go, we should have done something. I said it the day after the window closed. I said it the weeks after the window closed. I said it a month ago. I'll say it today. If we don't get top 4, one of the reasons that we can point towards is because we didn't strengthen in January. You know, that is one of the reasons. Or we let too many players go. Callum Chambers, you know, he could have been very useful. Very, very, very useful in these last 6 months. And we let him go for nothing. We let him go for absolutely zero. Near zero. I think cost maybe a tiny little fee, if that. Could have played right back better than Cedric. Could have played right centre back, you know, if we needed him to. Really could have used him. Again, going into our Arteta out raffle and we're pulling out William Saliba as the thing. No, let's actually sit down and have a think. Cedric could have been replaced by Chambers. You know, Chambers letting him. Why are you letting him leave for nothing when he's going at the end of the season? It made no sense. No sense to do that at all. Big Fats of Lucky says, to be fair, we should have done nothing more than keeping Maitland-Niles. It would have helped us massively when we missed a DM and the fullbacks so many times. And it's just frustrating because it's mistakes. You know, it's mistakes that we had control over. It's not like we didn't sign someone. So it's not like the argument can be that there was no one out there. Even though I know that there was, and I've talked a number of times about the players that we could have signed, but it's the players that we let go of when we were in a fight for top 4, when we've been pretty fortunate with injuries up until that point. I think only Granit Xhaka and Tomiyasu were the only real injuries that we'd suffered come the end of the January window. So law of averages told you that we were in for, at some point, players on a big, big scale getting hit by injury. So why weaken yourself? Why weaken, especially when you still had the FA Cup coming? You know, in that FA Cup game, we didn't have Maitland-Niles. We let him leave, and we went out of the FA Cup because, you know, our team was weak because we had so few players available because of injury, and I think COVID as well played a part of it. Red Luddite says saving wages, and I know you're being sarcastic, but the amount of wages we saved based upon letting Callum Chambers leave for 6 months is just so pitifully small that it makes no difference to what we do in the summer. It makes no difference. Clive says the reduced squads and improved unity got us here. That's our point of difference. Getting rid of the idiots was key. Clive, I respect your opinion. You know I do. But Callum Chambers is not an idiot. He's not an idiot, you know. And the idea of moving on Chambers or Pablo Mari, one of those 2 players, you know, and this is, you know, Pablo Mari was in a position last season where people were saying he should be starting with Gabriel, you know, that he should have been starting alongside him because they thought he was better than Rob Holding. The amount of times we had those debates about why are we starting Holding and Gabriel? Like Pablo Mari's done really well when he's been called upon. Why shouldn't he start? And that one player difference, saying that that's the reason why we've got us here, I don't think necessarily stacks up, Clive. You know, I don't think it necessarily stacks up the difference of one player. Because if either Callum Chambers or Pablo Mari was in this squad, I don't believe that unity, I don't that is affected by those two players. If you want to talk about Maitland-Niles, fair enough. If you want to talk about Aubameyang, fair enough. Two players that I do have fair arguments that upset the balance, upset the unity, upset the mentality in terms of, happiness in the group. But I really do think that Callum Chambers as a depth option, and sure, he's not starting every week for Villa. You got Matty Cash as a very, very good right back. You've got very good centre backs at Villa as well, but he's played games for them. It's about having the depth. It's about that depth that's in the squad. And I don't think having Chambers for 6 months upsets the unity that I agree got us to this point. It's not, again, it's not about him being great. Cedric is pretty darn poor, and I think Chambers stylistically suits us far better and is a far similar stylistic replacement for Tomiyasu than Cedric is. We've had a really good season because the back four has been balanced, with Tomiyasu being of the style of fullback that he is. And Chambers is far more similar in style to Tomiyasu than Cedric is. So that during those games where Kieran Tierney was injured and we had to use a more offensive fullback in Tavares, that cost us because we had Cedric and Tavares, two offensive-minded fullbacks, which left us open and that forced Mikel Arteta to make another mistake in terms of team selection and use Granit Xhaka at left-back against Brighton. If we'd have had Chambers there, stylistically, over Cedric, it would have kept the balance of our back four, in my opinion, far, far better. He's not great. He doesn't need to be great. All he needs to be is better than what we had in those positions, and I think that he is. If it was a choice of keeping Cedric for 2 more years or Chambers for 2 more years, give me Chambers all day long. All day long. Without a shadow of a doubt. Because stylistically, it suited what we were doing with that right fullback position far more than Cedric does. Far more. Tebow says Chambers has no pace. Him against Son would get the same result again. That wasn't pacing behind from Son, wasn't the reason why we lost this game. It was an individual mistake. It was an individual error from Cedric. Teng says, I've always said Son has no reservations in games. He plays without pressure. He was the man we had to target. Any defender alone against him will fall under his spell. Christos says, Holding has never been good enough. Top 4 is gone. What do you mean? This really, really gets me. Can I just get up something on the screen? Let's just, because I think people need reminding of this, Honestly, it's mental. I find it so crazy. It's so ridiculous. Let me just show you something. Stop sharing screen. Share the screen. Is this lost on everybody? Like, is this been lost on people? Like, because as far as I'm aware, I'm looking at Arsenal and I'm looking at what numbers next to us. Is anyone else not seeing what I'm seeing? I can't wrap my head around the idea it's gone. I can't wrap my head around the idea of this cataclysmic, apocalyptic kind of mindset after we drop points. It's like people are willing us to fail in our own fan base. It really feels like that. It really feels like there's this willingness to want to see Arsenal fail, so it justifies a point of view that people held. I wanted Arteta gone after Villarreal. I wanted Arteta gone after Manchester City. He's proven me wrong this season, and I'm delighted. You know why I'm delighted? Because it means Arsenal are succeeding. Because that's all that bloody matters. All that matters is that Arsenal succeed. That's all that bloody matters. I don't care who's the manager. I don't care who's the striker. I don't care who is watching. All that matters is Arsenal are winning. That is all that bloody matters. So why on earth is there just this desperate craving to be justified about a point of view that you might have held ages ago, that you're too embarrassed or too proud to turn around and say, you know what, I was wrong. I was wrong about Arteta. I was wrong about the decisions we made. I was wrong about the fact that we're only where we are because of what other teams have done, despite the fact we're on course for a points tally that equals that of other top 4 qualifying teams of the past. Why is it that people struggle so much with the pride of just being wrong over your own team that you are supposed to support? I just can't get my massive heads around it, I really, really, really struggle with it. We are fourth in the table, and our own supporters are saying top four's gone. Look, we may not get it. There's a possibility that we may still not get top four. Sure. You know, Spurs have got two very, very winnable games in Burnley and Norwich. Two games you would expect them to win. And we got two games against some tough teams. In Newcastle, but we can beat them. And we've got Everton, but we can beat them. We can beat both of those two teams. We didn't beat Everton earlier on the season. It was one of the worst games we played all year. We beat Newcastle earlier in the season quite comfortably indeed. You know, we played really well. Great ball from Tomiyasu to Martinelli. And Tavares played really well that day as well, you know, feeding in Saka for his opening goal. It's so frustrating, the lack of how far we've come from last year. You know, how far this team has improved, how much we've improved the recruitment, how we've lowered the age, how you're looking at this team play at the level it is with the lowest average age of any Arsenal team and any team in the league for so many years. And we're fourth. And we could afford to lose the North London derby and still be fourth. And yet, for some reason, there's still this just decrepit negative mindset. Oh, it's gone. It's over. It's finished. I don't get it. I'll be so disappointed if we don't get top four. But the reason why I'll be so disappointed is because we've elevated ourselves to put us in a position where we can get it. You know, we've got ourselves into a place where our worst case scenario for this season is not getting top four. That's the worst thing that can happen to us this year, in a year that no one really thought we were going to get to top four. And that's the worst thing that can happen, is that we finish where I thought we might finish, in fifth, because in my opinion, we had the fifth best squad in the league. It's sure. And the fact that it's Spurs is going to make it very difficult if we don't get it. That I understand. You know, it's painful. It's horrible seeing them not finish above us. But to turn around and be so negative and so end of worldy about this, I just find so strange. Clive says, can someone tell me why we tie ourselves up in tactical knots not to play Nuno? I think, look, I'll level with you, Clive. Look, if Nuno had started a left back and Tommy would have started at right back, I would have been fine with it. You know, I wouldn't have had a criticism of it, but I would have been worried. You know, I would have been worried that Kulusevski would have beaten him, especially because this Gabriel Tavares dynamic between those two has really struggled. Has really, really struggled. And we've seen games against wingers that aren't anywhere near as good as Kulusevski, you know, like in the Crystal Palace game, absolutely ruin them, ruin that pairing. So knowing what Kane's like and knowing what Kulusevski's like, I would have rather have seen us play a more defensive fullback. Jasha says, Tom, just get Clive on. Look, Clive, I've got all the time in the world if you do and you want to come on. WhatsApp me, mate. If you want to come on and we'll have a chat, come on. Chat box, get on Clive. Get on him right. He might be in bed, to be fair to him, but get him on. Hashtag get Clive on. Can't come in here, Clive, and have a go at me and not show up. He's going to hide now. You see him. He's going to disappear from the chat box. You know what I'm going to do, Clive? I'm going to DM you the link. If you want to jump on and have a chat, you can come on, mate. But goodness me. You can come on. Maybe he's in bed still. Maybe he can't come on. He might be too hungover from yesterday. Hashtag get Clive on. Hashtag get Clive on. You've got to come on now, Clive. The people are asking for it. Oh, what have I done to him? He's going to hate me. Holly says, I'm going to watch on playback. Thank you, Tom. I'm just getting even more annoyed by the live chat. It's fair enough, Holly. I don't blame you. Big Fat Savlaki says, Kulusevski is not as good on one-on-one as Son. Tavares' pace and strength could have handled him. What, like he handled... Who was it? Crystal Palace played on the right. Was it Schlupp? Oh, no. Hold on. Palace 3-0 Arsenal. Who played on the right hand side for Palace that day? Why am I going to 2017? For goodness sake. Blooming. It's zoomed in so much I can't see anything, for goodness sake. Someone in the chat box will know. Arsenal fixtures. Who was playing on the right wing for Palace? Blum, 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 blum. Where is the game? Brentford? No. Watford? Liverpool. Hold on, it was after that. There it is. Lineups. Who was on the right hand side? It was Jordan Ayew. Jordan Ayew. That's where we're at. Jordan Ayew was beating, Tavares and Gabriel. If that's the situation that we're in, where those two if that player Mateta and Ayew are beating Tavares, then I'm sorry that Kulusevski is getting the better of him. Kulusevski is obviously getting the better of him. Tono says, Tom, from yesterday, I think it gave us a perspective that we are still a way to go to be competing, but that's fine. It just means that we are on the right track. Tucky says, Tom, the negativity is not coming from a place of malice. It's just the way many football fans are. Many of us have glasses that are half empty. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being... No, I'm never going to justify you being pessimistic about Arsenal. You're a fan. In my view, you've got to be as optimistic and as hopeful as you can be, especially when you're sitting in fourth place, right? You're sitting in fourth place. Having a cup half empty and saying, oh, we've blown top four, even though we're clear in fourth right now, is something. There is something wrong with that. I'm sorry, but there is something wrong with that. It's not okay. It's just not okay. Weedy says, why does Arteta blame everyone but the players who bottled it last night, but was happy to throw Pepe under the bus? 17 years of the trust the process that adds up for the fans. Look, I think Arteta has been moaned about. Arteta has been moaned about throwing Pepe under the bus, and now we fast forward to today, and he's not done that of any players, and people moan at Arteta for not doing it. Do you see the problem with that, Weedy? Do you see the lack of consistency? People want Arteta not to throw players under the bus because he did that for Pepe, and I agree. I don't think he was right in his assessment of Pepe against Leeds that day. I think he was wrong to do that, and yet now he doesn't do it, and we're still moaning because he's not doing it now and he did before. You see the problem with that? Like, he's learned from that mistake to not go and do that, not to throw the player under the bus, and now we're moaning at him not throwing the player under the bus. It's a bit strange. Akiyoma says, we need upgrade for Partey and Tierney as they're both injury-prone players. Yeah, I agree. We need to find better depth. We need to find better strength in depth, and hopefully we're going to do that this summer. John says, if you think you have a reason to be pessimistic about Arsenal, imagine being a Spurs fan. I do have to agree. AFC Wilson says, it's not like we're 5 points behind hoping for them to lose the last two or something. What's wrong with people? The last two games that we lost, obviously, or the last three games we lost against Brighton, Southampton, and Palace, we're getting brought up. Did everyone see people tweeting saying we've lost 5 of our last 10 games? Contextually, when you look at that stat of saying we've lost 5 of our last 10 games, it just removes everything in terms of context. I have a visitor. Let me just bring him in. Hold on, let me find the right button. Is this the one I want? No, it's not. Okay, it's fine. We'll just throw him on. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Oh, yeah, not bad. How are you? I just set up quickly.
Not great, mate. Not great at all. Hold on. Let me turn my volume up so I can hear you. I'll turn it off when I'm on shows. Oh, the chatbot's going to go mad. Fair play to you, mate, for jumping on. It's very early in the morning. Did you? Was it a heavy one afterwards or not?
Yeah, well, I did my bits after. You know what it's like, and I will say this to the viewer. Well, the hardest days to do are days like this, because you have to almost lose 2 or 3 times, because you lose the game as a fan, then you have to come on and talk about it, and everyone bollocks you, and then you lose the game again, then you lose the game again. And it's one of the.
And then Clive comes into my chat box and tells me how I'm wrong, and I lose the game again, like that.
Yeah.
That's 4 losses.
Hey, look, every time you lose a game, I often say every time you lose a game is lost before kickoff, right? And it generally is. It's the approach to the game, and within the game, you're trying to control the variables, right? So, and I will say, if you're looking at this game based on previous games that Spurs have played, they attack heavy on their left-hand side. They use Sessegnon very high against Liverpool. We all know about Son. Our recent history tells us Son is a danger. Kane is a decoy. Kane gets all of Son's hard work, right? So for me, we had to solidify and stabilize our right-hand side at all costs. at all costs. That's priority number one. We chose not to do that. We chose to prioritise left-hand side. And let me tell you why. I think you wanted to roll around into a 5 at the back. And so the key thing, every coach had his priority about what he wants to do. And the key thing for him was to have Gabriel as the central centre-back when we rolled into a 5 out of possession. And so having Tommy on the left back was not really a left back, he was really left centre-half. Do you know what I mean? And then have Gabriel centre-back and Holding right centre-back. Now, this was the issue. This was the issue, really. And it's all to do with Cedric and Holding. Sessegnon was quite cute. So rather than play high against Spurs, Conte made him go deep. So what does Cedric do? Because he's an idiot, right? He goes jogging after him. They call it, the term I use is fishing. He goes fishing for a man. He wants a job to do. Well, I'll stay tight on Sessegnon then. Well, Sessegnon wasn't the problem. They were trying to isolate Holding. The Holding has a default. When he plays well, think about the games where he's played well. He's either been a deep block defending or when he's high, he's very aggressive, like he was against Costa, for example. So Holding's best games when he's angry. What didn't we need against a diving, cheating Son was an angry Holding. What we needed was calm. But if your right back's not there, what you do as a centre back is you are forced to get really aggressive and tight. Because you know if he spins you, you're isolated. There's space behind you. So everything plays into each other's hands, like a kinetic effect. So for me now, if I'm the coach, I would have put Tomiyasu on the right side. It's a hindsight selection, but he wanted a back. But he wanted a back 5. Do you see what I mean? He wanted a 5 out position. So that's what that was his coaching priority. Whereas our fan, in hindsight, priority and maybe pre-game was always Son. It was always Son, and he chose an out of possession shape over man-on-man play.
So is it Arteta's fault why we lost the game?
I think coaching priorities were different to mine, different to yours, Tom. Now, we know what I'd have done? I'd have said, okay, it's always a choice of Nuno or Cedric. That's the only choice for me. Nuno or Cedric. I go for the 6'1" guy who can run like the wind. He might be erratic, but in one-on-ones, he's not going to get bossed. Do you see what I mean? And I actually thought when Nuno came on, the game was dead. I thought he was really quite good. In the home game against Spurs, he was quite good. West Ham, he was quite good. I'm wondering sometimes why we tie ourselves into these knots, not to play somebody that we spent money on. Do you know what I mean? And I can't see it. And people, I've stood there and watched him. I was at West Ham, watched him. And I'm hearing people talk. I'm thinking, he's doing all right. The Crystal Palace one, Gabriel one, absolutely, totally agree. The two of them are off. They're off on their hollypops, right? They're in Disneyland licking lollies, right? So they weren't there on the night. And you choose who you don't like, who you want to blame for the Crystal Palace night. We could just say we got beat fair and square and move on, right? But we didn't move on. That cost us Brighton. Then we got our heads together again at Southampton. It was unfortunate.
Yeah. But we played that game a million times and win it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see any reason why Nuno can't play. I don't see a reason. I'll tell you why, Tom. Because we've got some bloke over there called Granit Xhaka. So he's his security blanket. And he ain't moving from that block. So just play him.
I think he's scared of him.
Play him.
I think he's scared of him. I think he's really scared. He looks at the performance against Palace. He looks at the performance that he's put in defensively at times. The Liverpool game, especially, we made that mistake to Jota. And I think he looks at that. And I don't actually think that and I think why we're seeing links to say Aaron Hickey at the moment, being linked with Arsenal is because in the summer, they knew they needed to get a backup left back because they know that Tierney's not good enough. And they know that we didn't really have an option because Kolasinac isn't good enough. And they also knew that they had to bring in a centre-back. They had to bring in an attacking midfielder. They had to bring in, the depth in central midfield with Lokonga. And they felt like with the amount of money that they were spending, getting a backup left back in was always either going to be, an experienced player that was going to give them no sell-on value, which is not what they wanted to do, or they go down the different route, the Tavares route, which is get a young guy in that's not really playing at his club right now that you can get on the cheap, probably from the continent. And I think that they've just looked at Tavares and gone, he'll do, rather than looking at him over years and years and years and thinking he's the right guy to take that position forwards. And I think they've just made a mistake.
To be confirmed. Remember we used to talk about Junior Firpo. Remember the guy we used to talk about? The why went to Leeds at the end? Yeah, I thought he was the one. Remember I said that to you, Tom? I thought he was the
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
I watched him play against PSG, used him right back against Mbappe, and he killed him. I thought, oh, this is a good player. We can get him as a backup left back. He's turned out, no, he's Gino Firpo better than Nuno. I'm not sure he is.
I don't think so.
I'm not sure he is.
Yeah.
Is Davis better than Nuno? Is Sessegnon better than Nuno? Is Emerson Royale better than Nuno? I don't think they are. Why can't we play him? Just play him. Play somebody with imperfections but has got massive strengths that you can shape around, rather than play somebody who gives you nothing defensively, doesn't give you the size, he gives you mid-table crosses going forward. Doesn't give you anything. He was our top passer in the last game. I do not want Cedric being our top passer in the last game. It's a problem for me. My issue is, and I'll tell you now, this is going to clinch it for you, mate. This is going to clinch it for you. If you're sitting in the Spurs dressing room and you see the Arsenal team sheet, you're saying, I hope Tomiyasu's playing left back. That's what you're hoping for. And we walked right into it.
Yeah,
we walked right into it.
My issue for me is that he could have gone to a back three. You know, you say that like he set up as if he was kind of playing the back three, but he actually, with Tavares, had the personnel.
But he did go to a back three. He went to a back five out possession. But the problem is you're putting your least, if anything, you want Holding in the middle of a back three. Do you see what I mean? Where he's in the box.
Holding Gabriel should have been the back three.
Exactly. And that's what you wanted. But he went for prioritized Gabriel as a central centre back. Sometimes football's really easy. Sometimes just put yourself in their shoes, right? And there's a big X in our right channel. And we got rinsed. We got rinsed in our right channel. And everything was an effect. I said before, I did a little podcast before, I said, if Cedric plays right back, please stand still. Because I know exactly what's going to happen to Holding. When you're physically challenged, like I was when I played, when it comes to speed, you've got one or two options. You drop off early or you get really, really tight. And Holding chose to get really, really tight.
What I would say is that despite that, I haven't got your thoughts on the penalty yet. I still think we lost the game because of two individual errors.
Absolutely right. Yeah. We didn't lost the game, we derailed.
Like we shot ourselves in the foot. We did a classic Arsenal. The meme of, the man holding the metal pole with everything labelled as Arsenal. That is exactly what happened again. And I think that whilst we can talk tactics and we can talk, team selection, I don't think the team selection is necessarily why we still lost the game, this specific game. It might be why we would have lost a game 11 against 11 across the 90 minutes had those mistakes not been made, sure. But we won't know that. The reality is that, in my opinion, it was a penalty. I've showed you. Did you see the pictures that I showed on the screen? I did.
So, do you want to give you my thoughts on the penalty?
Yeah. Go for it.
My thoughts on the penalty is, when you're a referee, what you do is you're watching a series of duels, and you're looking to see who's in charge of the duel, right? So Son has already made some good runs where he's been blocked off, out to win runs, and then and Harry Kane, who really referees the game, made sure the referee was aware of the fact that that Son had him. He's saying, mate, he's got him on toes. Watch him. Do you know what I mean? That's what they say. That's how it goes. And so basically, Son was already been fouled a couple of times in that scenario. And what he was doing was going from the touchline, running inside, arriving at speed into Holding. Holding must have had his macho tablets before the game and decided, you're not getting past me, right? And so that was that. On the penalty, when it goes out to Kulusevski, he chops inside. Now, what you should do as a defender, if it sort of goes lateral, you squeeze up. But we're already tense. So what we decided to do, we came running into the box. Sessegnon running on the back side, on the back post, overloading. When you see overloads as a defender, what do? No pressure on the ball, you drop. So we dropped in. But we dropped in, and our body position was completely wrong. So Cedric is sitting there thinking, he's facing his own goal. Yeah. Cedric, he's got his shoulders turned around and his body's opened up, and he can see Sessegnon on the outside. He can see his men. And if he goes up for a challenge, but his body shape's right, he'll get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, he won't foul him. Yeah.
When you're sitting there looking at the hot dog stand on the left-hand side, facing the wrong way, and then you jump up and push someone in the back, you are not going to get the benefit of the doubt. No. You're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. Now, as a fan, we can say what we like. We can say we watched the Liverpool-Everton game. There were tackles flying in everywhere, and none of those seemed to get cards. Every game had its own individual temperature, and Son and Kane made sure the temperature in that right-hand channel was hot for us. That's the truth. It was hot for us.
Yeah.
And we lost that psychological battle. We lost it with them. They were too experienced for Cedric and Holding. They were too experienced. When the team came out, I said to myself, okay, I would have played Nuno, but no drama. You can't watch a team through your own favourite sides. You have to watch it. I said to myself, you know what? That stadium's going to be raucous. Nuno's worst games have come away from home. I sort of get it. If Tomiyasu plays right back when Cedric left back, that was my thing. I sort of get it. But in the end, I felt the experience of Cedric let us down. The calm experience of Holding wasn't quite there. And I will add a third person to that in Granit Xhaka, who I felt, who is in all our first 11s and didn't really step up to the plate when it came to ball security, offering some level of assurance. He wasn't quite there. And the game was too big for us on the night. Lesson learned, tick, done. The next thing is always about the next game. And the most worrying thing about the night really was Gabriel going down. That's the truth, right? Because now
we've got to pray that White's fit. We've got to pray that he's fit.
Well, he hasn't trained yet, right? He hasn't trained. And there's rumors that hamstring is worse than what they're saying.
Yeah. They're keeping it very, very hush. If he's not, let's go worst case scenario, and Gabriel, White, and Holding are all unavailable. How do we do it? Do we have to bring Lokonga in and move Xhaka into a defensive position, or do you promote from youth? Like, do you bring in a Rekic or someone like that? You know, do you have to go down that route?
I don't think. I don't think.
Kirk, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a guy. Oh, I can't remember his name now. The right back's on the bench.
You got Swanson.
Swanson, that's right. Yeah. I haven't seen him play with my own eyes. And obviously, Norton Cuffy's on a loan deal, so he can't come back in. But that's actually a shame. I think he's on a loan deal. And that normally goes to June the 30th, doesn't it? Loan. So you can't bring him back in and play. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what we do. Wherever we do with our centre mids, they're not exactly pacey. And Callum Wilson's been resurrected from a near-death experience just to run down our channels, right? And Kieran Trippier he's probably getting WhatsApps from all these Spurs mates saying, get back for that game on Monday night. Do you know what I mean? And that's how the stars can align against you. But I did listen to you earlier on, and I thought you said something really, really astute. And this is something for everyone that's listening, right? Yeah, we're going through it. It's our right as a fan to question decisions in hindsight, but it's still in our hands, and we've got 2 games of football to win, and we ain't gonna win them if we're all like completely losing our heads. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we in the Arsenal world are just gonna go, oh my god, lost the game, and make that game cost us more than the 3 points, then it's a problem. Many years ago, I don't. You guys, maybe some of you guys will be too young, but when we played 2003, played Manchester United, and Sol Campbell got sent off by Elby and Solskjaer, and we lost that game, and we still were out of the title race, but we made it so big that we convinced ourselves we were out of the title race.
Yeah,
and we lost the title race, and we were the best team in that league, absolutely the best team that year, and we lost it because we lost our minds. We didn't lost. I think it was Bolton or Leeds. Can't remember the actual sequence of events. But we lost our way
because we lost it against.
Yeah. But we lost because of that sequence of events, because we made that day bigger than what it was. Let's not do that again. It's 3 points. We've got Newcastle and who are decent, but they've still got idiots in their back line. Right? Do you know what I mean? Let's go and deal with them, get our calm back, because I felt we lost our calm. I felt we lost our calm. We were excited about the target. And as a group and as a club, we suddenly look very young. Do you get that feeling? We look quite young everywhere all of a sudden. And even the experienced players look quite young. Do you know what I mean? And you can't fool us. We can see, we can feel it. Conte looks experienced.
Holding looks about 20 years old that day.
Yeah. Xhaka looks young.
Yeah.
You know, I just saw something this morning that Eddie had about 8 touches. I thought he started quite well. I don't remember him. But again, he looked young, disappeared. Saka looked young and tired. Martinelli looked like he had to get off that pitch because he was tired.
Mm.
It looks like we've hit a wall, but we have to stay together, right? Because I said this to you on the comments. The one thing that's got us here, which basically, let's be honest, we shouldn't be here.
No,
the name
no, we
on our
shouldn't.
team sheet. We shouldn't be here.
No.
The one thing that's got us here has been the unity within the team, unity within the team and the fans. I have no doubt about that. That's got us the extra wins we needed, the 1-0 wins away from home, the key wins at West Ham, Villa, Wolves, Leicester. I'm telling you, this has been the difference this year that's got us to 15 extra points to put us here. The one thing that can break us is if we make these situations bigger than what they actually are. Even though deep down we're all crapping ourselves, right? Sorry, Tom.
Yeah.
I know you don't like swearing.
Oh,
we're all scared. We have to hold that down, right? We have to hold that down and stay on the positive side. And then if it goes wrong, or for some people it's when, you can bring out your Arteta bingo stuff, right? You can bring it out. Shouldn't have got rid of Aubameyang. Guendouzi, what's he doing? Mavropanos, Saliba. Should we go through him?
Yeah.
Ozil, let's get him back in there, should we? Let's go through the bingo card, right? And forget all the things that have got us here. Let's go for the bingo card.
Didn't sign a striker in January. Let Chambers go. As I
let
like
Chambers
to
go.
Hey, I really think there's something in that. I think there's something. I get your point about the unity thing. I really do, and that's definitely got us to here. And trimming the squad and making sure there's as few unhappy faces in that team as possible that aren't not necessarily are frustrated with the lack of minutes. And if Chambers left, it probably was in part due to because he was a bit frustrated with how little he was playing.
And he made that clear when he left, by the way. Look at the comments when he left.
Sure thing. But I would have said to him, I'd have been like, look, we're in a position here at the moment, Callum, where, we're fighting for a top 4. We really need your help in these last 6 months because there might be a time, and, the time has come where he would have been very useful. So
absolutely.
I just think that he's the one player in particular because he costs so little that I would have kept hold of. And I know that Pablo Mari wanted to move on because of minutes, but he was also the only backup left-footed centre-back we have. But I look more towards Chambers because of his versatility.
Yeah. The other one I go towards Maitland-Niles. I thought he got his eyes. He got some flowers sent to him by Mourinho, played in the Rome derby, and then has sat in a coat ever since.
Yeah.
And
he'll be regretting that move without a shadow of a doubt.
That to me, because Tom, he's in every squad. We got Swanson on the bench at the moment.
Yeah.
Maitland-Niles in every squad. And he's playing. He has left a lot of minutes on the table. A lot of minutes. And I think but he's one of the idiots I was talking about. Do you know what I mean? He's an idiot.
Yeah.
Can't have idiots in the dressing room.
It's that mentality that they're bigger than what they are. That's the mentality we need to get rid of.
You read about the All Blacks, right? All Blacks rugby, and I won't say the word on here. They have a no idiot rule. Look at it. Look it up.
Yeah.
And you get them out of the dressing room. And even so, from our fan point of view, because we love football and we can positionally put people around and look at their profiles and say, Maitland-Niles could have played here when Zambia had a bad game. When Cedric had a bad game, Maitland-Niles could have played there. When Nuno's having a mental breakdown, Maitland-Niles could have played there. Do you see what I mean? It's a natural thing to do. But all we have is match day to judge on. We don't have the dressing room to judge on every single day. And the Arsenal workplace looks the better place to me.
Yeah,
because that league table you showed me earlier on, it sort of tells me it's a better place, right?
I find it mad how people are saying it's over and done with and we're sitting a point clear in 4th. Is it because of just this kind of, worst case scenario mindset that we always drop ourselves into because of the amount of times we've blown things? But I feel like we haven't, when we've got into our positions, blown these types of things. We have a record of when we're in a top 4 race of, getting into that 4th spot. That's our history. So what is it with this mindset?
I think it's because if we're really honest with ourselves, we have exceeded expectations. And we're thinking, it's almost like imposter syndrome. We're going to get a tap on the shoulder soon. You're not really that good. Do you know what I mean?
Against the £1 million question of who wants to be a millionaire when you're not that clever.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, guys. How many of you have been in jobs where you're thinking, crikey, everyone thinks I'm really good, but I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Do you know what I mean? I need a bit more time to learn what I'm doing.
That was me teaching
And
A-level at 21 years old. That was.
it's called imposter syndrome. We all think we might not be quite good enough, and deep down we know that we are exceeding expectations, and we're looking really deeply at that confirmation to say, I knew we weren't quite good enough. Do you know what I mean? I knew we weren't quite good enough. This is why. I feel the same. I'm no different.
Yeah.
I'm no different.
We're punching above our weight.
I'm scared beyond belief that we're not going to get the promised land that we really, really hoped we'd get. And that's down to the fact that we're just not quite ready, but we could still do it. Why not? Why not?
It's a good place to end. Clive, thank you so much for making this the longest 8 a.m. show of my entire life. But I appreciate your your presence and your attendance, because it's definitely helped me put a lot of things into perspective. So,
love the show, mate. Love the show. And look, I don't know how many people are watching, but
800
they're not
of
bad. I can see the comments, and I think yeah, you guys are top. Anyway, I better run. I've got to go and do a job.
Yeah, same. Thank you ever so much for everyone for listening. Really appreciate your time. Drop a like on the video. Make sure you go and follow the Arsenal Vision podcast. We'll be able to listen to Clive every week, breaking things down, as well as you've seen him do today and more. We'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.